We are all consumers of comments. We open up the comments, we laugh at the comments. It's a feed within a feed. Be intentional about how you're showing up there, just as you are intentional about showing up on the feed itself.
Hello, I'm Brianna Doe, and this is Stop the Scroll. Let's get into the content that makes us stop, click, and care. So one thing that's always fascinated me about the internet are the comment sections. And personally, I think the internet's real culture doesn't happen in the polished posts. It does happen in the comments. That's where people drop the performance, they react honestly, and comments are the tell. I feel like they show what actually landed, what missed, what made people feel seen. So if we want to understand the internet, we can't just watch what goes viral. We have to watch how people react to what goes viral. So I'm so excited to have this guest with me today. Brett Dashevsky is the co-founder of Siftsy, the social insights platform analyzing comment sections to uncover basically what drives culture and commerce. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Wonderful introduction of Siftsy. I always love when people take their own approach in terms of describing what it is, but I think you nailed it there. Culture, commerce is exactly what the comment section is shaping amongst many other things.
I love it. So before anything else, I would love to dive into the origin story of Siftsy. Like, what made you decide that comments were a thing, worth building a whole company around?
Yeah, great question. So funny enough, my full-time focuses right now are on Siftsy, of course, and then also a community media and events business I started called Creator Economy NYC. And Creator Economy NYC started in January of 2023 as just simply a bar meetup. And I made a goal to basically host one event a month throughout 2023 to kind of just build my own network, which ended up building a lot of more momentum into what became a full company that I now run alongside Siftsy. But the two actually are almost like sister type of companies, because our fourth event that we ever hosted for Creator Economy NYC, I did our first ever kind of programming event where we did a fireside chat with a emerging content creator at the time. Well, I don't know if I would describe him as emerging because he just hit 1 million at the time, but his name was Tim Chiazzano. And he blew up from his like day in the life content here in New York City. Here's a kick-ass day in the life, someone in his 40s. And I had the honor of being able to sit down and do a fireside chat with him. In fact, I met him at the same event I ended up meeting my Siftsy co-founder at, which was our event back in March of 2023. Towards the end of the interview with Tim Chiazzano, I asked him how he was dealing with like judgment in his comment section. He's been blowing up. There's a lot of people online that are coming across him. People might not agree with his stuff. And he basically explained that his wife, Kelly, reads him his comments, after a post or something like that. So like Tim's not even looking at his comments, his wife's reading them and basically like sifting through and pulling out what Tim should hear. And my co-founder of Siftsy is a guy named Leon Liavotesky. And he is an entrepreneur. He comes from kind of the digital marketing space. He's an engineer. And he came up to me after the event. He was coming from making like some creator tools. And he said to me, hey, Tim was talking about this thing with his comments. His wife reads it. And he's like, I had this idea. Like, this was like a few months after ChatGPT was blowing up. He's like, what if there was like, everyone could kind of have like a Tim's wife in the sense of someone who's like filtering through their comments, where basically after you post, like 24 hours later, you would get a thing that you can see positive, negative, and neutral comments. And you can like have that angle. And I was like, oh, yeah, sounds good. Like, shoot me a LinkedIn message and, we'll see what the next steps could be. And I can maybe get in front of Tim. So he's like, great, no problem. Didn't hear from Leon until like 2 weeks later. He hit me up on LinkedIn and he sent me the MVP of what is now Siftsy. And it was called Kelly AI as like a brief name. And he had this like local kind of thing where I can like play around with one of Tim's videos and look at it positive, negative, and neutral. And I come from like an entrepreneurial background, previously sold a company back in 2021 to a company called Workweek in the creator space. And I was like, oh, this is really cool, but I don't like the way it's designed. Like, I think that like it needs to be prettier. And like, so let me take a go at changing the UI and maybe a different name. And then we can get in front of Tim. And Leon was like, okay, cool. Like, do you want to like do a Figma or something? And I'm like, yeah, I'll figure it out. All of a sudden, I'm like sucked into basically building out like a new UI for this thing and a new name for it. And I'm coincidentally working with ChatGPT on like describing what this thing is and like even like looping in my own vision for this. And I landed on the name Siftsy because the idea is you're sifting through comments. And then like, I love this like SY or names ending in Y. It's like a friendly techie type of vibe. So I go back to Leon and I share with him the Figma and the updated elements and he makes those changes. And like all of a sudden we're working together on this idea and like we're going back and forth on it. And we started to build this comment section analysis tool or comment section filter tool for creators. But through like meeting with people and like talking about it, we started to realize like there's actually like a really big need for this for people who are like running social campaigns, mainly influencer marketing campaigns, who are already going through the comment section, but they're doing it manually. And or like they're exporting the comments and like putting them into a spreadsheet and then like manually tagging things as like positive or negative sentiment. And so we started to like build in that direction. And then I knew from being in the creator space that, it's really hard to build a creator tool. And creators don't really want to pay for tools actually, unless it is like an advanced editing tool or something. They're pretty scrappy. And so we started to lean into like, wait a minute, this could be a tool for like brands and agencies, for like influencer marketers as a start. And so we started to build in that direction. And then like we landed our first customer in May of 2024, which was really exciting. And that person actually came from one of our events. So I started to realize like, wait, Creator Economy NYC is almost this like distribution element for us where we can meet our core customers in real life. We're embedded, we're learning rapidly for how to iterate this. And so we kept building it. And then also realized like, wait a minute, there's these like social insights and like social listening teams at these bigger brands that also care about the comments, but there's been like no way to do it. And like, here we are building that solution. So all of a sudden we start to like realize that the social insights teams at like Lyft, the social insights teams at Taco Bell and Hilton, which are now all customers of Siftsy, like need this type of tool. And it just became more and more clear to us that like comment sections are this like next frontier in the social space. We've already seen it with like ManyChat leveraging comment sections as this like advanced way for commerce. But like from an insight standpoint, from like capturing what are people saying on your latest campaign? What are people saying on that complaint about United flight? There's so much insight there that just brands weren't able to capture before because the comment sections are like a feed within a feed. They're like its own area and they're full of nuance and emotion and they need to be treated as such. And so here we are building Siftsy as like this standard for genuinely how comment sections are understood and scored. And that's kind of where we're at now. I'm doing it full time, which feels like surreal. And the fact that I'm working on both Creator Economy NYC and Siftsy full time just feels like it was destined to happen. And these things that came from simply bringing people together in real life through Creator Economy NYC, meeting my co-founder, meeting some of our earliest customers, the idea coming from it, it just feels, so crazy. But that's what we're doing now. So that's the bit of the origin story. I know it was a bit long, but I think it's cool how it literally came from this little event to now truly like a thriving SaaS company where we're working with these massive Fortune 500 brands and agencies like Wasserman and soon Publicis and whatnot.
Well, one, I'm obsessed with that story. I wish it was longer. That's fascinating. And I'm so happy for you too that you get to build this full time.
Thank you.
I'm sure it does feel surreal and it's really exciting. And you're building something, in my opinion, that's incredibly unique and needed. Being able to dive in full time and build something that you're so passionate about is incredible, and something like you're filling a gap that candidly I don't think anybody else is. I think comment sections are overlooked until it is time to export the data and put it in a spreadsheet for your legal team or your brand team. I am curious, either from a creator perspective or a brand perspective, like through the work that you're doing, have there been any insights that have been revealed that have been surprising to you or to the companies that you work with?
No, great question. It's funny. I think that there is this obsession with bots in the social space. And one unique thing that Siftsy is able to do is we are able to kind of remove what we might perceive as bots. But frankly, the platforms do a good enough job at that. But kind of a unique thing of like our take, and we try to also educate some of our customers on and prospects, is like you kind of want to see what the bot comments are because people see them as well. So when someone's looking in the comment section and they see a bot comment, like it could still impact their perception. And that's actually what's so dangerous about bots. But you almost want to know what the bots are saying, because if it's good bots, it's like, well, what are they saying? If it's bad bots, it's like, well, why is the bad bot saying this particular thing? And I think also, another interesting reveal is just how much brands and agencies are overlooking truly certain things that are going on in the comments, and how something that they are seeing manually is not actually reflective of the full consensus of the comment section. And that when you are going through a comment section manually, you kind of have your human bias coming in and you see a couple of comments and you're like, oh, a lot of people talked about XYZ thing, but it was only those 4 comments that actually talked about it, but the rest were talking about this other topic. And so what Siftsy is able to reveal very uniquely is kind of like the share of topic in the comment section, and also develop an understanding of like, is this comment positive or negative, from a sentence standpoint in relation to the context of the video itself. And so we kind of take a whole unique spin on sentiment where, if someone is trashing, let's say, Dove cucumber deodorant in a video, and you work on the social insights team at Dove, and someone in the comment section is saying like, yeah, I hate Dove deodorant, that comment is actually perceived as positive in relation to the context of the video itself, right? Because the video is trashing Dove and someone's basically agreeing and is like, yeah, they're agreeing with both the subject, they're agreeing with the subject of the person who's revealing the message, they're agreeing with them. So it's like positive sentiment. But when it comes to the subject as the thing they're talking about, which is the Dove soap or the Dove deodorant, that's kind of negative element. And so there is this unique kind of approach that we're working on for how brands are perceiving how comment sections are understood, because again, it is response to content. And so you can't judge a comment in a vacuum. It needs to be judged in relation to what it's responding to. And so that's just been also like an interesting understanding for brands. Many get that. Some people are like taking a new approach, like, oh, okay, I get it. This is actually trashing Dove. But in relation to the content, it's agreeing with the thing that I'm analyzing. I think the biggest reveal for us is like social teams get it. People who work in social understand the nature that the comment sections are important. Where we're seeing kind of a new push is for traditional like research folks and people who do insights and customer insights for companies. They're still like getting used to social in general. Adding the comment layer is like an even deeper element of social, but that's like what we're betting on, is that people are going to start to recognize like the comment section is this like unfiltered focus group that's like right there in real time for you to be able to understand and analyze.
That is fascinating because in theory, what I'm hearing is you're also helping brands kind of reframe the way they view positive versus negative sentiment within the lens or filter or container of the content that was produced. And what immediately came to mind is I think when it comes to social listening, especially when you work in social, it's very short-sighted in the sense that you're just looking for like what the immediate wins are, and anything that's deemed negative, obviously you need to tweak your whole strategy and start over and everything else. But what I hear you saying is you can pull out data from that to tell a more holistic story or a fuller story.
It depends, because if you're analyzing an influencer campaign, like let's say you are on the analytics team at Wasserman, right? And you're analyzing kind of like a Gatorade campaign that went live. You already know that the post and the person in the post are talking positively about Gatorade because it's an influencer post. So when someone's commenting negatively about the influencer or about Gatorade, the sentiment's going to be very clear, like, oh, this is being negative towards the post. The unique thing comes in is when you take someone who does like research and maybe is taking like a crisis management post of someone trashing Cracker Barrel. The object is Cracker Barrel and the subject is the person trashing it. So if I'm trashing Cracker Barrel and then someone also in the comments is like, fuck Cracker Barrel and we hate the rebrand, the social listener person at Cracker Barrel is going to be like, well, this is a negative comment. Why is it being marked as positive? Well, because technically it's positive in relation to what the content is talking about. And so one thing that we are working on is making that more clear and being more visible about what's going on in the content itself. So we're trying to like be more revealing of that. Typically, folks who do insights and research for a living like should understand that. But when we think about actually building the product, it's making that all very clear. But we also take a unique approach to sentiment where it's not just positive, negative, and neutral. In fact, we don't believe so much in neutral because like, what does neutral even mean? Something's either positive leaning or negative leaning. So that's kind of where we loop it in. But we also bottle it up to consensus. So like, are people agreeing or disagreeing with the post itself? And then relevance. How relevant is the comment to the post itself as well? And so we actually take all three of these: sentiment, relevance, and consensus scoring and like take a proper average of it. And that turns into what we call our Siftsy score, which we believe genuinely gauges like the vibes of what's going on in the comments section. And so, that's our unique proprietary scoring. We find it's very accurate. It works very well. And it's important to kind of have benchmarks in this space, right? Like what's a good comment section? What can I compare, people talking and responding to this campaign on TikTok to what's going on Instagram? Because there sometimes is a discrepancy, right? People on Instagram tend to sometimes be a bit more harsh. Yeah. You might not imagine that, but like for some reason, Instagram Reels is like rough. TikTok
so
sometimes
mean.
a bit lighter. Yeah,
they're so mean on Reels.
And so it's interesting to sometimes see that come through. But that's been very revealing and fun to build as we're taking, we're building out a proper methodology around this, as there is a bit of a science to understanding and making sense of all this conversational data.
So one of my favorite things about TikTok right now is the fact that you can leave a photo comment now. And I'll see, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I see entire comment sections where everybody is just leaving a reaction picture. How does that play into this? Like, how do you measure, to your point about like understanding what a good comment section looks like, where does that fall?
Great question. So image comments is something that we are working on to now kind of loop into the broader picture of what we're understanding. It's just, image content, there's an aspect of understanding what the image is And then also like understanding what it is referring to in either the caption or what's going on in the video, which we can understand, right? We can, AI enables us to understand those stuff. So that's our next iteration is now as photo comments become more and more popular, it makes sense for Siftsy, it's building at the forefront, the category leader in this space, to understand how to rank what this photo of Drake doing like this, this memes, right? Or, when someone like, there's like always like a banger, there's always like that image of that actor who's like, he's like this, like kind of like dancing to it. It's Anthony Mackie, yeah. So like, we are following these things. We are working on understanding it. And like, we're building out our team to truly kind of have an academic approach to like, what does this photo mean? How should we be ranking it, right? Is it positive leaning? Is it, again, if someone's trashing positive leaning and agreeing, because it's almost like, what does that image mean? That image is almost an element of like, I love the sound of that or something, right? So we kind of need to loop that in, and that's what we're working towards. And we're really excited about, the more and more what we're able to understand and loop in to making sense of the comment section.
I'm a little obsessed with, if we can nerd out for a second, I am a little obsessed with this part of it because there's so many layers to what you just mentioned. Like, you have to first understand the picture itself, what's in it, what it probably technically means, and then understand the reference behind it, because that could also inform how the commenter is using it, what they're trying to communicate. And I've been working on this article about how even as we've evolved as humans, we actually haven't really evolved at all. Like, we still, hundreds of thousands of years ago, they used hieroglyphics to communicate, and now we've evolved or devolved to using reaction pictures and memes and emojis, and there will be an entire comment section where there's no words. Like, it's just images, and everybody knows exactly what's going on. They just communicate with reaction pictures or images, and I just think that's so fascinating. And I don't fully know what my question is, but I'm just curious about what you think about like the level of community that can be built within a comment section. Yep. Without even speaking to each other.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what is so unique about comment sections and why we emphasize brands, let me not use brands, let me say social teams and community managers and social insights teams to be paying attention to the comment section, research teams, is because there is a shared language that is often evoked in the comment section that's worth understanding. And you can also figure out like kind of these inside jokes that are being said around certain topics. And yes, it is so funny that when you open up a comment section as a consumer and you see that Anthony Mackie thing, you're like, I'm going to like that because like I resonate with that. It goes into just the broader social culture of memes. Like, memes are a shared language, right? And so that's also another important thing to understand. And the broader social listening companies are also like, working on figuring that aspect out, that when someone uses a meme to understand what are people saying about XYZ company, like, you have to understand, is that meme like a positive angle they're taking, or are they talking about a competitor? So, I mean, I love memes in that it is a shared language, that there's a reason you and I understand a meme, and it's almost like my parents don't, but it's like, yeah, it's like, if you know, you know. And comment sections do encapsulate a lot of that. And sometimes that also is through verbal language where of course, it's like someone saying she ate, right? Siftsy can understand that she ate, what that means, right? We have context around that, and we know that that's probably positive in relation to what's being discussed in the post itself. And so I'm always fascinated by that because that's just broader internet culture. And, I think that comment sections obviously are a quintessential piece of internet culture, more so now than ever, just because at one point people were like, oh, comment sections are just a bunch of like trolls, writing random things. But no, it's like now with the proliferation of short form video, with the fact that like we actually are moving towards a more conversation driven social environment, like there's going to be a lot more cultural nuance and things that need to be discussed in comment sections. And what does that cultural nuance also look like across like languages, across cultures, right? Something that's being said here in the States might be different than how it's perceived, in the Middle East or in India, whatever it might look like. And those are things that I'm excited for us to continue to iterate on and figure out, as like cultural nuance is so unique and important. And now with like AI, we actually are able to at scale more and more understand that, which I think is just so unique. But most importantly, it doesn't remove the human element. You kind of still need a human to like interpret and understand, like, okay, here are the observations Sifsy's bringing in. Oh, okay. And then like, you still have to interpret, what does this mean? We can support with kind of like the action or steps there, but like you as a human need to like also add in your own understanding and nuance there, which I think is very unique. And that's the angle in which we're building, is this human and technology forward path, right? It's Siftsy augments what you're able to do.
I love it. And I think it's interesting in this evolving digital landscape where we're so, focused on AI and tech, like people are still finding ways to connect human to human, even within these digital containers. I think BookTok, to go off track, is like a great example as well with just the tropes that they've developed. You can get into like any BookTok comment section and you'll see the same tropes mentioned. Everybody knows exactly what's being talked about.
We're literally talking to Penguin Random House. And that's a huge thing that we're showing them is this element of book talk. You want to understand what to go back to your authors with. You know, yeah, your next novel should probably lean more into thriller romance. Why? Because across book talk, we're seeing that like people are just in demand of that. But also like how do people perceive a book or whatever it might be? What are the inside jokes people are saying? So you take not only like what's going on in a comment section, but within a comment section of a particular community, which is book talk, which might be automobile, right? And we always say that if you like, let's say you do a social listener or you do research at like GM, what better way to actually understand what's going on in the market or what to build next than to like go to one of the big automobile influencers channels or profiles and like go analyze their past like 60 days of posts and see what people are talking about in the comment section. You know, maybe there's a big uproar in terms of like they don't want any more EV vehicles, their cars are too heavy, and it's like, okay, this is interesting research. So you take that, it's one piece of the puzzle, Siftsy, right, in comment sections, and you take that and you figure out what's next. Same value with book talk. Great, we're revealing like these raw understanding, but like we shouldn't be your only data source, right? I want to encourage that. You need to pair it with your other social listening tools. And also like, what else are you seeing from an industry standpoint? What is your other team who just did surveys figuring out? You know, we believe the comment sections can be strong enough to like make those certain decisions, but complementing that, you now have a much more strong data set that you just never had before.
And that's also why I think it's so important to have brand strategists, social listening teams that also deeply understand the culture in which they're trying to craft this brand. Like, perfect example would be Quinn, the audio erotica app. Like when they did that Heated Rivalry, or the partnership with the two Heated Rivalry actors, the timing on that was insane. And I did some research and found out that it's because they were living in like the comment sections, the Reddit threads of Book Talk before it even got picked up by HBO. So they had like started working on the deal with the lead actors before they even knew it was going to blow up. But they were just like light years ahead of any of their competition because they were already inherently living within the comment sections that their audience frequents. And I am curious too, like with all that being said, who do you think actually controls the comment section? The creator slash brand or the audience or just whoever shows up first?
I think that it is primarily the people control the comment section. In fact, you know, we just did a post at Siftsy about how brands right now suck at engaging in the comments. It's been oversaturated with people coming in, brands thinking that the comment section is almost like this free ad space and like they're commenting on someone's post and like it's Charmin or Duolingo, whoever it might be, which is like all well and good. But we almost like train of like listen before you speak and engage in the comments because sometimes a brand might not be welcome. And like you almost need to like read the room before you barge in and you're like the Kool-Aid man and you knock down the door. And so like we talked a lot about if you're a smart brand, you take that post, you put it in the Siftsy, you understand like what's going on here, and then you can actually engage with intention. But I think it's the people who primarily drive the comment section. You as a brand and as a creator can only do so much with responding, with moderating. In fact, there's this element of like moderating might be a bit overrated where it's like you're like removing comments, you're like blocking out the commentary. And I think that sometimes is like a inauthentic approach. The beauty of the comment section is it's almost like these town halls. It's the voice of the people and anyone can comment, right? Unless you're blocked. And that's something that I like to embrace. And that's also why the work we're doing is so important because it's like, bunch of people are commenting here, even if it's 10 people. If it's 10 people and you're analyzing 5 posts and you have 10 people commenting on each post, right? That's 50 comments, right? That's still a lot of interesting commentary. So what's going on there? If you're a creator or a brand who tries too much to control a comment section, you're almost going to then be eaten alive by the people, right? They're like, they're deleting comments, right? Or like, you know, they're trying to shift the narrative. You're done. You're done. So it's like, listen in, you know, and take an intentional approach. And that's what I hope we see in 2026 is this more intentional approach towards how brands are engaging in the comments.
I love it. Final question for you. So, you know, the comment sections where you'll show up and like 72 brands showed up before you did and started all commenting on this one post that's gone viral. Is there anything that you recommend brands keep in mind when it comes to engaging with like content creators or just people creating content online?
Pointing back to what I was just referencing in terms of brands need to listen before engaging. There is, yes, this obsession of speed to response, which I think is like, I understand, I get it. You want to be there before, again, the other brand makes their comment. But you have to understand that like sometimes people now might have a more foggy perception of you because it's kind of oversaturated in terms of how brands are responding. And there was this backlash in terms of like creators or just, you know, UGC folks, they think that brands are treating their comment section as free ad space. They're like, great, you're getting all this visibility on my viral posts. And it's like, back up. But if you're engaging intentionally, there might be a different approach. And so that's why we encourage brands to listen in. And what Siftsy enables you to do is to take that post or grouping of posts to understand, like, how can we show up here? Should we even show up here? And I think that, like, we're evolving into more mature social. I love that, like, head of social and all that is becoming one of the most popular roles that's being hired for. But with that comes like best practices. And, I'm excited for us to be building a tool that is leading the way with best practices, that is creating awareness and understanding on how to approach comment sections, which is becoming, again, this new frontier of social insight, of social listening. And that's what we're building towards. So that's kind of what I would leave it at in terms of how for them to engage from a social media and community management end. But the same vein, from a research and social insight standpoint, you also need to listen and you need to understand nuance and you need to know the full narrative. And Siftsy is able to provide that in also a scalable way so that you don't need to be like wasting your team's resources and hours on sifting through comments yourself. It's like leverage Siftsy as a complement to your broader tool stack to dive deeper. And now you have, that strong material to guide campaigns, products, and strategy.
I love it. I know I keep saying it, but I'm just obsessed with what you're building. And I'm excited to see how it evolves in 2026 too, as we live online more and more every day. Yep. So I think comment sections are going to continue to evolve, and it'll be interesting to see like what data we can pull from it. Anything Absolutely. You want a creator or a brand to know just about engaging in the comments?
Yeah, I mean, again, check out Siftsy, Siftsy, S-Y, and see what we're building. And I'm just really excited to, again, just push social media into a better, more intentional space and to, make sense of the conversations that are happening online. And yeah, for us to understand the nuance of what's going on. We are all consumers of comments. We open up the comments, we laugh at the comments, and it's, again, a feed within a feed. And I am very optimistic it's going to keep becoming more and more important place. And so yeah, just be intentional about how you're showing up there, just as you are intentional about showing up on the feed itself.
Love it. And we'll put the info for Siftsy in the comments, or in the show notes, actually. Now I can think about our comment sections. But thank you so much for stopping by, Brett. And if you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And for more on what's shaping the definition and demand around the content we consume, sign up for the Stop the Scroll newsletter. Link in the show notes as well. See you in your feed.